Here comes Campbellsville. King back to Adams! What a two-handed block!
Makes 2 minutes, and she finishes!
Four from third, he's going to, sliding safe!
Welcome into Tiger Nation Weekly. I'm host Zach Clements. This week we have something very, very special. It's going to be a lot different. We're going to go on a run with Sam Kiser along with a long walk with assistant head coach Corbin Harris. But for right now, we're going to go straight to Brett Pierce, and he's going to be on a run with Sam Kiser.
Good afternoon. I'm joined by cross-country track and field senior Sam Kiser. Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Brett. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Out here at beautiful Green River right now, the leaves changing. You know, how's it being out here, especially with the leaves changing? Is this just a different atmosphere for you to be able to come out here and enjoy this?
Yeah. So we actually come out here just about every year for preseason, and usually we don't come out here around this time where we can see the leaves turning brown, but it's still a great time to just come out here and enjoy some runs. So
preseason, do you often do long runs or workouts out here? Do you get to run on the trails very much?
Yeah, so we run the trail some. You got to be really careful though, obviously.
Yeah.
There's some rocks and some stuff, but yeah, the trails are pretty gorgeous. Just the scenery itself is just breathtaking to take it all in and enjoy it all. So
absolutely, that was one of when Coach Lakes had recruited me to come in. This was one of her recruiting pitches. Does she still often use this as a great recruiting pitch to be able to bring athletes in?
Yeah, for sure. Just running out here and being able to come out like whenever it's preseason and just with the sun and the sunrise, it's just gorgeous being out here. I mean, this year actually was the most gorgeous time to come out here just because the sun was coming up over the dam and like the freshmen were just like in awe. It was like awesome to see their reaction to it. So
absolutely. So you came into the program, it started receiving that consistent national attention, but you had guys like Joey Hartledge, Dylan Ford, Brett Crawford, who you got to run with for 2 years.
Yeah.
Adam Sandage. You didn't get to run with him much due to his injury, but how do you feel those guys kind of paved the way for you to lead to your success right now?
Yeah. Well, those guys like Brett and Adam, they're way better AKers than I am. I can tell you that much. But they definitely have, because I just remember like coming on my visit and Coach Ford, who was the coach then, he was talking to me about how Adam was like a sub 25 minute AKer, and I was like, this guy's broke 25 minutes of AK, like this guy's ridiculous. And so he kind of used him as a tool. And then my sophomore year, Brett did the same thing. Brett went out there and broke 25 in the AK, and so it's been a really good legacy to have on this team. Just these athletes that have gone sub 25 and athletes that are like consistent in the 25s. I think it's a big recruiting tool for us.
And speaking of just coming in, talking about that as a recruiting pitch, how much of a shock is it when you're a freshman compared to you being a senior now? How much of a shock is preseason just adjusting to the college racing?
Yeah. It's funny because when I first came in, I thought preseason was the absolute worst. But like now, because I'm an upperclassman and I've been through it before, I'm able to adjust so much better and still do more than what I was doing before.
So now that you've kind of adjusted yourself, you're a senior now, you're heavily involved on campus.
Yeah.
You're an RA, you're involved in FCA.
Yeah.
Coach Lakes really likes her athletes to be involved. How much has that helped you along just getting through college?
Yeah. I guess CU has this phrase, find your calling. And so I think that doesn't just apply to life. I think that applies to, not to just college. It applies to life. And so being able to find your calling. I mean, I feel like for me, I'm not like a naturally born leader, but I feel like I do set a good tone for others. And so being able to be in like these leadership positions have kind of helped me develop as like a leader almost. And so that's been really big for me.
And you don't have a whole lot of extra time on your hands.
Yeah.
Like I said, you are an RA, you are involved in FCA, you're an athlete, you're a student. how, before coming in from summer training, how do you get yourself mentally and physically prepared, knowing that you only have a select amount of days off per year?
Yeah.
And usually even those days, you're doing homework.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I really try to enjoy my time off. I don't feel like a lot of athletes do that. I feel like, you know, once the season ends, they're super motivated and they still want to keep grinding. I try to make sure, try to hold it all back for the next season. You know, hold back that excitement and that energy, and just hope that, like, that kind of translates over into my next cross-country season or next track season. And so I really do try to make sure I enjoy my time off in summer training, try to make sure I get that done. I don't try to go too hard because I know when it really matters the most, and that is like towards the end of the season. So I really try to put a lot of emphasis on like the middle part of the season, and even like the earlier part. And so yeah,
you know, having all that work in, you started out your freshman year. You know, you were freshman of the year in cross country, but you've been from fifth man, and now you're that guy.
Yeah.
How important is 1 through 7 on a cross country team? How important is each man on that team?
Yeah, well, like, I mean, if this tells you anything, you got Brett Crawford, who was on my team my freshman and sophomore year, and he was like the lone guy up there for the Tigers. And so we had a good pack. We had me, Corbin Harris, and Jacob Hamilton, and a few other guys that were kind of thrown in the mix there. But it's just crucial that you have a solid 6, because you never know what could happen to that 6th guy, or that 5th guy, or that 4th guy, and so on. It's just important that you have all athletes being able to, you know, complete the race, run a good time, and for all you know, it could come down to a 6-man.
So when it does come down to that, how important is racing the race itself over racing for time?
Yeah, like, a lot of people like to run for fast times, and I think that's great, but, you know, you gotta learn to run for your team, you know what I mean? And so you gotta make sure, you know, when you're talking pre-race strategy and you're like, hey, you know, we gotta make sure you're there. You know, we need you 2nd, we need you 4th in the race. It's important that you're there for your team, because that can really throw off strategy if you aren't. So.
And for you, now that you're that guy now.
Yeah.
People around the country know you as who you are. You're Sam Kiser from Campbellsville. You know, how important is it for cross country competitive track not to reveal your strategy too early in your race?
I would say just focus more on, like, not on what other people think, and just focus on, like, doing what I'm doing, you know what I mean? Because, you know, a lot of times people just don't anticipate things like they will be in a race. And so, I mean, there's no telling what can happen in a race. You just got to be all in, bought in. You've got to learn to make sure to make moves whenever you need to make moves in a race. Things aren't going to go to the best sometimes, and in some races you just got to learn to, you know, being able to compromise and work together and get it done.
So right now, you know, we're going uphill and downhill out here at Green River.
Yeah.
You know, the different changes in strategy. You're more of a track guy, obviously.
Yeah.
But what do you have to do for your strategy personally to be able to have your best race in cross country?
Yeah, for me, I've got to go out a little fast if I want to run a fast time. And I think I can run a pretty consistent race, but preferably what I like to do is to kind of go out at a solid pace, just a little bit faster than what I'm finishing in.
Sure.
And that'll put me in a good spot, I feel like.
And, you know, comparing that to track, you know, track, you have your main event's the 800.
Yeah.
You're racing for less than 2 minutes. How important is those first, even just 100 meters or 200 meters?
Yeah. There's been a few races where I've actually had to come from the back of the field and either contend or win from the back. And so I've learned through my experience that in 800 meters, you got a full send. If it goes out fast, blazing fast, then you just got to be ready. You can't anticipate what other people are going to do. You got to learn to make your own moves. You got to learn to be there, ready to compete. And that's the fun thing about competing is, like, you know, you just have to be like, just make the right decision, you know what I mean, in a race. And yeah, it's going to suck. and sometimes it's really going to hurt a lot. But just being there and being aggressive and staying consistent and making those tough moves in a race, they'll definitely pay off towards the end of the race.
And even talking about moves too, you know, folks can obviously see right now, you're 5 or 6 inches taller than me. You know,
Yeah.
drafting, that's such a key aspect that a lot of world record holders will be able to do on the track, especially.
Yeah.
But you're a big body.
Yeah.
You're the one that usually gets drafted on.
Yeah.
How do you know, get yourself ready for people that are drafting off you
Yeah.
and making a move?
Yeah, you know, that's one thing, and maybe I just haven't ran enough windy meets to really know how big of important, or how important drafting is. But you know, for me, obviously, I feel like, you know, if there's people behind me, I bet they are using me as almost like a shield, a windshield. But that's one thing I really just don't put a lot of emphasis on, because I feel like I'm the type of runner that kind of gets, that kind of settles sometimes. And so it's important for me that I just maintain pace and go out there and not worry about what other people are doing. And if there's a lot of wind, then yeah, I'm going to use somebody. You best believe it. But if there's not, then I'm not usually too worried about it.
You know, like I've already said, you're now known around the country. You know, you were freshman of the year in cross country for the Mid-South Conference. You've won 6 Mid-South Conference titles, and now 9 All-Americans and 1 national title, still counting. You know, how do you get a freshman that comes in, when they ask you, how do I get to your point?
Yeah.
What are you going to tell them?
Really good question. You know, a lot of athletes will do the bare minimum whenever they come in. And I feel like for me, I just told myself, hey, I'm gonna do the maximum. Whatever coach allows me to do, I'm gonna do the best I can do. And so if you just have that mentality, that's just a mental edge, and physically, you're just in better shape than other freshmen that you're coming in with, or other freshmen that are in the conference. So that's kind of just helped me develop as a runner, is just making sure that I have that mental edge over people, and making sure that I just outwork other people.
And a lot of times you were talking about doing the maximum. Coach Lakes will usually say if you're doing mile repeats one day,
Yeah.
5 to 7 mile repeats, you know, you usually want to do 7. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm sure you were the same way, especially being a marathoner for Campbellsville. I'm sure you took it the same way. I'm sure you definitely went for those 7 mile repeats. I mean, obviously you're one of the top ever. I'm still chasing your record. You're third all time in the 8K. I'm 4th, so I'm definitely trying to get you. But I don't know if it's gonna happen because of COVID now. But
well, I'd love to see you break it. But you know, before we finish up, you know, you're a senior now, and you're at this point in your career. What would you tell freshman Sam Kiser coming into his college years?
Yeah, really good question. Man, I would just tell him, hey, focus on you, don't worry about other people, and just basically the same thing, just outwork everyone that is around you. Pay closer attention to what others are doing around you, and realize that, like, you know, it's not all about you in the long run. It's about your team and enjoying the atmosphere, and enjoying your teammates, enjoying that time that you have together. Because let me tell you, man, I mean, you know, after 4 years, I mean, it's over with.
Yep.
You're done.
Yep.
And so just telling them that, that'd be huge.
Yep.
So.
Well, Sam, we've gotten a little over a mile and a half here. I appreciate you coming out and joining us.
Hey, thanks, Brett.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah,
Thanks
definitely.
for following. You've been watching Tiger Nation Weekly.
A career in health services is closer than you think with Allied Health at Campbellsville University. Certification can take as little as 12 weeks, with programs specifically designed to fit into students' busy schedules. Offering studies from phlebotomy to pharmaceuticals, students learn while growing in a field devoted to helping others. Campbellsville University's Allied Health programs offer practical, affordable, and servant-focused training close to home. Take your first step and make a difference with Allied Health at Campbellsville University.
Excellence.
Nurturing.
Rooted.
Diversity. Experience personal, academic, and spiritual growth at Campbellsville University.
Welcome back to Tiger Nation Weekly. I'm host Zach Clements. Special edition for you today, and now we're joined by assistant track and field and also cross country head coach Corbin. How are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I can't complain. So our day started off. Did we have some breakfast this morning? If so, what do we have?
Usually I went my go-to, peanut butter banana oatmeal. Usually just throw it on the stove, throw some peanut butter, cut up banana, slice it in there. That's my go-to meal, usually pre-run, and also just get my day started.
That sounds good. I woke up a little late this morning before we were going to record the show, so didn't get to have my breakfast, but some big news coming into spring. You got named the assistant head coach. What was going through your mind when that job got offered to you? And then talk a little bit about accepting it and then how it's been so far.
It's been great. Sort of how the process went. It went pretty smoothly, opened up pretty quickly. I'd been talking with Coach Ford over the past few months about just some different opportunities that he had when he was thinking about moving on. And then once the position finally came open, coaching was something I never really thought I'd be doing. But after just months of prayer and just thinking about what I'm going to be doing next in life, it was a position that came open. I texted Coach Lakes and said, hey, I love Campbellsville. I want to stay here. This is an opportunity I'd be willing to take on. And pretty much it went from there pretty smoothly. In about 3 or 4 days, I was being interviewed with Coach Hardy. And then once I talked with him, he thought that I'd be a great fit. I knew the program pretty well just from being an athlete here as well. And I came in, and it's been going great since.
Speaking of great, you've ran a couple of races so far. So how's preseason gone so far, and have you been pretty happy with the results?
Yeah, we've had one race so far. We raced at the Greater Louisville Classic, which is usually our big regular season meet of the season. And I know a lot of the athletes were disappointed with their times, but because it is generally a super fast race, but it was our first race of the year. I know our ladies ran our third fastest team time in school history, so that was exciting to see. Gabrielle Velez, she got a third all-time on our team's top 10 list. And then Haley Lamar got 7th all-time on the top 10 list. We also had numerous ladies set season PRs and just career PRs as they've been in college. Then on the guys' side, we had a lot of success as well. Sam was our number one. He didn't run as fast as he did there last year, but it's the first meet of the season, so we didn't really naturally expect that coming in. But then Sean Little, one of our freshmen from Michigan, he stepped in and had a huge performance for a freshman, running sub 27 in his first collegiate 8K. Outside of that, we had a lot of freshmen still step up. It's the 8K transition from 5K is really tough. And so it was nice just for them to get a race under their belt before we head into our next few races for the rest of the season.
So you mentioned Sam Kiser. What's it like to have him? Obviously, you raced with him for a couple of years, and now you coach him. What's it like to have him as your anchor on the team?
It's been great having him both. He's a friend of mine as we were teammates, but he's also just a great athlete to coach. He's over the past 2 years I've really seen, but really this year just as his coach, he's really stepped up as a leader, both on the course and off the course. He sort of helps guide the freshmen. I know there's plenty of times where he is really intentional about incorporating everybody together as a team, and that's nice coming from a senior, but also like your best runner when they're incorporating the guys that may not be as fast as them or may not be as talented, but they want to incorporate that team atmosphere to create a brother-like bond and a family atmosphere with our program.
So obviously, you're the assistant coach for track and field also, so he runs both. Explain to me a little bit about you running the cross-country race and then, say, the 800-meter. What goes into preparation? How different is the training? Some stuff like that.
Yeah, the training for especially the 800 and an 8K is completely different. The biggest difference will go into mileage. I know Sam specifically, he got to running about 70 miles a week during our base phase for cross-country, training for a 5-mile race. the 800 is only half a mile, so there's no need to be running 70 miles a week. And so with that, he'll probably max out at maybe 50 miles. But then once we go into workouts, things are going to be more explosive for an 800. And you're also going to be doing a lot more things on the track. Whenever we are training for cross country, with it being just a varying terrain type of sport, we try to avoid the track. We want to work on hills. We want to work on running around turns, where during track season, when you're running 800, everything's going to be the same everywhere you go, a 400-meter track. And so we're going to do our workouts on the track to really work on that leg turnover and work on speed and hitting splits and things like that. In the weight room outside of that, we'll lift differently as well. Cross country, we're working more on lifting that's going to be focused on just injury prevention. As we're running a lot of miles and doing a lot of work just on our feet, we want to do things that's going to strengthen our muscles in a way that we're going to just stay healthy. But once we get into track, we're going to implement some of those same concepts, but we will also be more explosive with our lifts, because with an 800-meter run, you're going to have to be more explosive off the ground. And so a lot of the lifts will just be more explosive to work those muscles in that way.
And a dual sport athlete yourself, you have a really big history with Campbellsville. You obviously recently graduated, accepted the position. You're also a GA in our office. So what does Campbellsville University mean to you?
Campbellsville's been amazing. I've been here 6 years now as a student, and then now as a graduate student and full-time employee. And I mean, I can't even fathom to think of all the people that have really impacted my life since I've been here. I've tried to be involved as much as I could, both as a student and now as an employee. And it's just been great being able to plug in different areas, just to see the university grow, but also just to see and just to really feel the love of everyone that pours into me just throughout the 6 years.
And then, so we're in the middle of a global pandemic, obviously, COVID-19. How has it personally affected you?
Me personally, I guess the biggest impact has been getting this job. I don't think I would have been in this position without COVID. So I look at it sort of as a positive as well. During the quarantine months over the summer, I was looking for positions elsewhere. I wanted to go into ticket sales or work for a professional sports team in a marketing or sales type role. As many of those were being shut down, we had no one was really hiring for those. And so while I was just praying that I'd get opportunities in that position, if one of those would have opened up, I never would have considered this. And now it's something that I've genuinely enjoyed, and I really feel like I would have enjoyed more than the career as a ticket salesman or whatever I was actually shooting for.
Learning some new techniques. Talk a little bit about the recruiting. How different has it been this year?
Yeah, that has been really different. Like for me, everyone says like man, you're stepping in a tough position. Like things are so different, but this is all I've known. So I honestly don't think it's been as tough for me to transition with COVID. But with recruiting, it has been a little difficult. A big part of that is because how are you supposed to get in touch with kids when you can't? When I go to some meets and they say, "Okay, you can't talk to the athletes while we're here." And so a big focus of mine is I'm trying to be as involved as possible. Anytime that we're not racing on a weekend, I'm going to watch some of the recruits meets. I love watching our recruits run. Outside of that, it's been a lot of just phone calls, sending emails, different things like that. But it's honestly hard to get in touch with kids based on an email. I know when I was in high school, I never checked my school email. And so you don't really hear back from a lot of athletes that you just want to give an opportunity to compete at the collegiate level. So the biggest thing has just been showing up at meets, trying to get to some meets will let you go talk to the kids. Some meets they want the kids as soon as they cross the finish line, they want them on back on the bus and they're leaving. And so at that point, I just go to really cheer them on. Whenever I finally meet a recruit and I get to know them, I want to plug into their life. I don't want to just be like, hey, I'm here because I want you on my team. I do want them on my team, but I also want them to feel the support and the love that we try to show as a program and as a university. And so even there have been multiple meets where I've gone and they say, don't talk to the kids. So I'm like, I'm at least going to show and like cheer them on, because with not having as many spectators there, it's tough to run without people like cheering you on and they're supporting you. And so I try to plug in that way. When I can talk to kids, I will. I love it, and really trying to get them, let them know what our program's about, and really just show them the love and support that we try to embody, both as their students and as their athletes here.
So that changes probably along with a lot of your day-to-day operations as well. So do you make like the practice plans?
Yeah, Coach Lakes and I both do.
So how, when you were training in college, did that help you form, say, the plans now, and then a little bit more the day-to-day operations, handling the works, maybe scheduling events, stuff like that? Walk me a little through that.
Yeah, so pretty much we stay pretty ahead of things. Coach Lakes and I will both sit down usually each week to sort of reevaluate our plans, but at the beginning of the year, at that point with Coach Lakes on maternity leave, a lot of it was me trying to make plans. But since I'd been through the program, I know what Coach Lakes likes. I know the type of workouts that we need to do. I've done it. And usually our plans stay pretty similar. Obviously we adjust based on the athletes that we have, and like this year it's different. We're doing a little bit different of training simply because our conference championship isn't until the spring. But Coach Lakes and I will usually sit down, try to get an estimate of each individual athlete, how many miles do we want them to hit. And then we'll set their long run based on that number. Usually we try to do about a quarter of their weekly mileage is what their long run is going to be. And then we make the 2 workouts for the week. And outside of that, it's just we'll plug in the recovery runs based on the amount of miles that they need after the workouts and after the long runs. Coach Lakes and I have both been able to, I've been able to integrate sort of some of my training that I've been doing in the past few years, especially with trying to get athletes to run more mileage, because as I've run more mileage, I've had more success. And so I think that's been a big key to a lot of things that we're doing, and our athletes have responded really well to an increase in mileage. A lot of them aren't used to it, but for the most part, we've responded well, and they've enjoyed running more.
And so now we're here at beautiful Green River. What's it like to have a place like this that you can just come run to?
Yeah, we love it. I know we don't get to utilize it during the season as much as we like to, simply just because athletes are coming to practice straight from classes. And so whenever we are able to come out here, a lot of it's during the preseason. I know we came out here 3 or 4 times this past preseason. We get to come out here and do a long run. We get to come out here and do recovery runs just whenever we get the opportunity. I know one of our long runs specifically was the last day of our preseason. We were able to go on, and we came out here. We left at like 6 in the morning, so we got here. It was dark. All the athletes were tired. They were like, "Why are we getting up so early? It's the last day." But we came out here. I think some of the guys did 15, 16 miles. Some of the ladies 12 or 13. And by the time they were getting done, we were running right across this dam. The sun was rising over the water. It was one of the prettiest mornings I've ever had as a runner. And so it was really nice to see that. It was sort of a great close to our 2 weeks of just training and training and training. It really fired a lot of them up. I know 2 of our ladies actually came back out here the next week for their long run just to try to see that same thing and have that same feeling. And then a lot of athletes, even though we aren't able to come out here as a team a lot, I do know a lot of the athletes love coming out here and running on the trails or just getting out a different scenery anytime that they can run on their own.
Along with Green River, what are some other parts maybe that they go run to around town, or that you personally picked around town other than Green River?
So we utilize Miller Park a lot. There's that walking trail up top. That's probably our most common workout spot, simply because we can get on the walking track. It's about a 1,000 meter loop, but we can also implement the golf course that's a part of that, and that creates a perfect mile route. So anytime we're doing mile repeats, we'll hit something like that just to get some grass simulation. There's uphills, downhills, things like that, more to simulate a cross-country course as much as we can. We also have Trace Pippin. I know the athletes, they love going out there and just running on their own, but there's also an 800 meter loop that we'll run down there. We've used Veterans Memorial Park. That's one that I added a little bit this year. There's a 1K loop, so anytime we'll do 1K repeats, we'll go out there. And that's been nice because again, we can get on grass and we can get on blacktop. The university also has given us a cross-country course that we don't utilize as often, simply just because it's some of the like sharp turns, things like that. But we are going to use that a lot more in the spring, just as we're really trying to build a cross-country base for our spring championships.
And you talk a little bit about the stimulation. Obviously, it's a lot different running on a track than it is, say, in a cross-country in the woods. Talk a little bit about the differences and like how do you prepare for something like that?
Yeah, the biggest difference, obviously you have the hills and things like that. But one of the big things that people don't realize is just how you work the muscle groups. On a track, you're working the same muscles over and over and over because your form's never breaking. You're running on a flat surface, and so you really are working the same muscles. But whenever you're doing cross country, it's a lot more, the hills and the turns and all that are like varying how your muscle groups are being worked. So that's why whenever we're in track season, we're going to run on the track because we need to work on tiring out those muscles and doing our workouts under that same stimulation. And then once we're in cross country, we don't need to be on the track because we have to work on those varying stimuluses.
So you ran both while you were in college. Did you have a preference? Did you enjoy cross country more, track?
I love cross country.
Really?
Cross country is my niche. There's just a different type of atmosphere with cross country team. Track is a team sport. You score points individually to get a team score. But cross country, you really, really feel that team pull. You intentionally will, like there are some like cross country strategy, you will intentionally have an individual that will run slower, like so you can run as a group rather than running as an individual. While during track, like you're running to win. You're running more for individual times and things like that. I love track. I love our track program. But for the most part, I have absolutely loved cross country in that team-like atmosphere.
Well, Corbin, we appreciate it. We walked quite a bit there, and we got a lot of time in, but thanks for joining us today.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
That was Corbin Harris, and I'm host Zach Clements. We appreciate you tuning in to this week's Tiger Nation Weekly. You've been following Tiger Nation Weekly.
Here comes Campbellsville. King back to Adams! What a two-handed club!
Makes 2 misses, and she finishes! 4 from third, he's going to, sliding safe!